Hi y'all, it's Lady Mal. Yeah, I'm back. See, told you I was gonna get back on the horse. Um, it's like 5:30 in the morning, and I've been up for 3 hours for who knows what reason. So I decided what was a better time to do a vlog than now. So I got asked, and I can't remember who asked the question, and I didn't write it down. I'm really sorry, but I got a lot of questions from one person that I'm going to go ahead and cover because some of it I've covered in previous vlogs, but it's been like a year. So I'm going to go ahead and address those. Um, One of the questions is how much should be planned in advance and how much should be left for in the moment. Um, I can only speak from my personal experience, but you want to plan like high points. Kind of like if you're writing a paper, you write like bullet points that you want to hit in the paper. You want to plan like, okay, well, we want to do bondage, we want to do some pain, we want to do some sensory deprivation. Um, then if your relationship is of a sexual nature, well, then we want to have sex. But I wouldn't like micromanage everything. Like, okay, at 5 o'clock we're going to tie you up. At 5:15 I'm going to flog you for 27 minutes. At 5:45 we're going to do this. At 6 o'clock we're going to do that. I think that's a little too scheduled. But have an idea of what you want to do. Like if you want to do bondage play and go into sex, well, you need to make sure that you have restraints or, rope, silk scarves, whatever, floggers, if you know that you're going to want to blindfold your partner, well, have something to blindfold him or her with. But I wouldn't have like a freaking whiteboard with notes. Okay, we did this, check it off. We did this, check it off. I think that's a bit much. I mean, you can always be spontaneous because, like, for me, we don't have a playroom. It's our bedroom, what I'm in right now, and I have a kid, so it's not like we can leave toys laying around everywhere and have, sex swing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you're able to do that, rock on. Eventually, once we do buy a house, I would like to have something like that in our bedroom, but still where I can put it away because we do have friends and family that come over and I can't have that kind of stuff just laying around. I live in the freaking Bible Belt. Go figure. But, we start fooling around, but it's not really planned. Like before my master, daddy, dom, whatever, before my husband and I really get into the groove, so to speak, sometimes I'll ask, so who do I get tonight? Do I get daddy? Do I get my master? Do I get my sadist? Do I get my alpha? Just to ask him what kind of mood he's in. And sometimes it's just us outside of kink, you know. But most of the time I get an answer, and that's about as far as planning as we go. A lot of what we do is left up to the moment, just go with the flow. The next question is, what goes into the pre-planning and what are some ideas for basic training layouts? Well, like I said, we really don't plan a whole lot, and I have been so far past like basic training that it's kind of fuzzy on what I actually did. And I'm gonna smoke, but y'all will just have to deal with it because it's 5:30 in the morning and I'm borderline delirious at this point. But anyway, as far as training goes, it depends on what you're wanting to train for. Are you a budding sadist or masochist and you want to learn how to use, pain to get what you want, whether it be the excitement of giving it or the pleasure of receiving it? Start small. That's the best thing I can tell you. Don't jump into, I want a cat of nine tails and I want a single tail whip and I want a crop and I want, all this kind of stuff. Start little. It's amazing what you can do with a leather belt. Just saying. A leather belt, some clothespins, because I think clothespins are a little easier to start on than jumping right into like nipple clamps, unless you can get the adjustable nipple clamps, and then those are awesome. But you know, little things like training. If you're not used to sitting on your knees for a long amount of time, like if that's what your master wants from you, um, just when you're reading a book or watching TV, sit on your knees. Or if you're like me who can't sit on your knees for very long because your knees are terrible, um, learn to sit like sit down on your knees and then sit to one side so your legs are out to the side. Sit cross-legged. If you're going to be getting into suspension or not even suspension, if like you're on a St. Andrew's cross, which is a cross like this, and you're not used to having your hands up or like this or even behind you, you need to get into that slowly. Do it for short periods of time. Don't jump into a St. Andrew's cross for half an hour if you've never been in that position. And most people think, oh, well, you're just standing in a big cross. But your hands are up, but you start pulling on the restraints, and your body tends to go a little more slack when you relax and really get into it. So start small. Don't go for like marathon of anything, whether it be bondage, blindfold, gagging, anything like that. And if you're going to use a ball gag, start with something soft. I've had everything from a Nerf type material, which coincidentally I bit through, um, all the way up to an actual dowel wrapped in suede. So it was a little soft, so I didn't break my teeth, but it was hard enough that I didn't bite through the dowel rod. But again, don't start off with putting it in his or her mouth for, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time. Start slowly. Plus, a lot of people who want to be gagged have never been gagged before. And if you just shove something in their mouth, they'll tend to freak out. And then it goes bad. And then you have to stop the whole scene and everything is shot. So yeah, no matter what it is, if it's flogging, only do 5 or 10 hits. Not as hard as you can. You're not swinging for the fences here. Start off softly and then work your way up. And if your submissive, whether it be male or female, ends up being really into pain, i.e. a pain slut like me, well, then you can start swinging for the fences. But everyone is different, so you got to kind of ease into it, find out what your submissive likes, what you like, what you don't like, what they don't like. Yeah, you just have to talk about it. And if you do something that your submissive doesn't like and they vocalize that, you need to accept that. And if your submissive asks you to do something that you're not comfortable with, you need to man up, per se, or woman up, whatever, and say, look, I'm not comfortable with doing this. If it's a hard limit, then don't do it. If it's I'm not too sure about it, try it a little bit or research it online. It's amazing what you can find with Google. There are some things on there that you can never unsee, trust me, but go to Fetlife. Ask me. Ask anybody, It's not too difficult to find information. Let's see. Next question. How do you suggest initiating a scene? This person says, I like to subtly express my submission all the time. So how do we draw that line in a scene and out? Okay. Initiating a scene. It really depends on where you are. If you're at home by yourselves, usually I say, hey, honey, you want to go fool around? Or he mentions it, or he gets up and grabs my ponytail and drags me to the bedroom. If you're at home, it's just like initiating sex with your partner. It's not something that should be like a big to do. If you're at a play party, if you're asking to play with someone else's submissive or someone else's top, you need to ask their significant other, owner, whatever, for permission. Otherwise, it's just freaking rude. And if they say no, then you nod, smile, apologize if they're upset, thank them if they're not, and move along. Those are really the only, if you go to a club, I've never actually been to a club, but it runs along the same lines. If you want to play with someone, you need to ask them. And if you're with your partner and they have stations for you to play at, then play, but follow your own rules. You know, just because you're out in public, don't think you need to flog your submissive until she can't move. If that's what she wants, cool. But if you've never done that before, this is not the time to do it. Um, yeah. Okay, how to express your submission subtly. How do you draw the line in scene and out? Well, in scene it's a little easier because, well, your roles are pretty well defined. Out of scene, I've always been a submissive person by nature. I don't really know how to not be submissive. You know, it just kind of goes hand in hand with being a good wife, being a good girlfriend, being a good mother, whatever your titles are. Just making sure people are taken care of. And like with mine, while we do live it 24/7, it's only really, really obvious in our bedroom. Most people wouldn't pick up on it in the outside world because I'm just being polite. You know, I make sure he's taken care of. I make sure, you know, does he need a drink? Is he hungry? You know, does he need to take any medicine? Whatever. I really don't know any other distinction than that. And the last two questions, as a slave girl, to what extent should I partake in the pre-planning process, and about what amount is usual? That's kind of hard to answer. I mean, really, planning, that really goes along with sitting down and talking with your dominant. You know, what are your hard limits? What are the things you absolutely will not do? What are things that you might do in the right situation? Really, that's all the input that either one of you should need. If your dominant gets it in his head that he wants to play, well, he should already have an idea of what he wants to do. And that idea should be based on what your limits are and what his limits are and what, you know, the limits of where you're at. You know, is it feasible for you to play? Is it not feasible? Are you comfortable playing where you're at? Or should you stop? You know, are there medical conditions involved? That's really all in that planning of when you enter into a master-slave relationship. Those are things that should already be known. So your amount of involvement should be a lot, but not at that moment. It should be at the beginning of the relationship. And, you know, 6 months down the line, you should probably talk about your limits. Have they changed? Have some of your hard limits moved to softer limits? Have some of your softer limits gone away? Did something come up in a scene that made you really uncomfortable and now it's a hard limit? You know, do you have medical conditions that have popped up that prevent you from doing certain things? Really, that's about it. So yeah, I really hope that I've answered some questions, specifically the ones that were asked of me. If I didn't, I'm really sorry. I'm really tired. I've only had like 3 hours of sleep, and I am wide awake. Oh, and I totally forgot in my last video, I forgot to show this. This, which you can't really read it, is my collar from my daddy. It says Pumpkin because that's his nickname for me. Daddy's little girl, because I totally am, and collared. And it's cool because it's a dog tag and it's on a chain, and he's a retired Marine, so that's kind of awesome. But anyway, so I've gotten a lot of feedback. I'm really glad to hear from y'all again. I'm so glad to be back. I have missed y'all. I have missed getting all these questions, and I have so many more topics to cover. But keep your questions coming. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your friends' friends. All my contact information is at the beginning and the end of my video. So I hope y'all have a great day. Mwah! Bye.